depending upon the job and how big the gap is that I'm actually trying to fill will depend upon if I'm going to use the dust from the saw here, which is a little bit heavier, or the dust that may have come from like the stuff that I just did with the drill, because that's really dusty, and then how thick I'm going to want it. Now, because this is going in some fine, I don't want it too big and I don't want it too thick because I want it to get inside. Now, if this was a big hole, well, then it would be different. Then I would use a heavier dust and I'd make this a little thicker to start to fill the hole. But like I say, that's the way I want it right now for what I'm doing with it. It's perfect for me. Guys, I don't know if you ever noticed it or not, but I drilled holes 1 inch apart in my table saw. And I also put a piece of 2x4 underneath this lip here. Let me see if I can show you. Okay. Now, that's bolted down from the top here. Now, why that's there is so I can use a clamp, if I wanted to clamp onto the saw table. Because otherwise your clamp wants to fall up underneath, or you're using a whole lot of screws for screw space adjustment for nothing. So I stuck a piece of 2x4 under there, leaving about 6 inches on each side. Now the holes are for a few things. Not so much for the measurement off of the guide, but it allows me to cut circles. That circle over there on the floor was cut out of a piece of 3x3 1/4 inch ply. What you do is you just take it, drill a hole in the center, pin it as to what size you want. So if I pin it here, I'm going to get it like a 24 inch. But you pin it to the center with the pin, and then you bring the blade up just, I mean, ever so slight, to where it's just starting to skin. And after you do a circle a couple of times, you bring it up again, just so slight, and you continue your spin. And you bring it up again and again and again. Now don't get carried away and bring it up too much, because you'll start to burn out your blade and make a mess of everything. But you just want to bring it up a hair at a time. And that's what you get. And somewhere around here is the opposite side of that, because it's a perfect circle within a square. So I mean, there's a numerous amounts of uses for getting a perfect circle out of a table saw. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of different size pipes right here. And they're going to be below table level, so they're not in the way. But I'm going to tack weld them. Well, I'm going to weld them on, and they're going to be 3 different sizes. So if I ever need something to slide into that pipe, right, I got the pipe there to hold it, so if I need it. Like for instance, I was just doing that drill press. That drill press has that little pipe right there. And I had to worry about that table because the bit was too big. Well, if I was able to slide that press into here, into the pipe here, put my board right across this opening, I wouldn't have to worry about that table at all. See? So you understand where I'm going here? And with that pipe, what I would do is I would have it so I can drop it right down into either a mount on the floor or a mount coming off the bottom of the saw. This way the bottom part of the pipe will also be supported, so I'm not putting all the weight onto this, because if I did and I started doing this, it would break off. You follow me? Boom, boom, boom. So just because it's a table saw doesn't mean you can't do things to it to make it more useful. This was brand new when I bought it, and it's still practically brand new. It's only a couple years old, but I use it for everything. I paint on it, I spray on it, I do everything on it. You know, now I'm stripping a piece of wood, and because I had some paint on it, I threw some on here too, just for the hell of it. And every couple months I'll clean it down, not unless I'm getting into some real detailed finishing work. and I make sure I got a clean surface, but I don't do much of that anymore. So, but anyway, good idea. Well guys, I took a ride at the Hoffman's today. They still have quite a few guns, but the walls are kind of bare without any ARs or AKs. But they got tons of shotguns. They used shotguns and revolvers to fill up some of the space. And they used holsters, so they got a hell of a variety in holsters. They actually put 4 or 5 computers in, so now you fill out all your paperwork in your own little computer station, and you swipe your ID through it, and then you just pay them in, and that's it, if you're buying a gun. Now, I just wanted to see what they had up there, so I haven't been up there since the ban. But they seem to have still a pretty good variety, as long as you're not looking for the so-called assault rifles. But while I was there, I bought some of this, yeah, which is relatively, that's cheap for around here. And it's got a pretty good velocity on it. It's it seems to be a good round. I've got the 20 gauge auto, semi-auto, and I found that the high brass seems to feed through it much better than just the cheap stuff. But I also found this stuff, which it's kind of low in velocity, but it's high brass. Makes sense? Not to me, but for that kind of price, I'm not going to argue with it. And if I buy it by the case, I get a better deal. So I figure I'll go to the range tomorrow, and I'll pump through 30-40 rounds of some high brass, and then I'll gradually switch down to this stuff, and maybe just get it all broke in, and I'll be all set. So that's what I plan on doing with that. And then my cleaning kits need a little bit of tune-up, so instead of sitting there and picking the pieces, which is usually the best way to go, I didn't have time to sit there, nor did I feel like sitting there picking out brushes and mops and everything that I needed. So I just bought a couple of kits real quick. I know I wasted some money on it, but you know, I just wanted to get out of there. So, because I had to go to Cabela's again. And then I bought 3 snakes. And that was about it. So, I don't know if I ever told you guys about the brass and how much I actually go through. There's a box of brass down there. Now, it's got the little handles on it, as you can see. This is what reams of paper come in, you know, copy paper and things. So, my wife can get as much as these as many times as she wants. So I tell her, you know, bring me home one every couple weeks, and I find a use for them, and mainly it's for this. Now I know, for where this is right now, up to the handles, that's somewhere between 70 and 75 pounds of brass. And that is somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks, so I'm going to round it off to 2 months. That's 2 months worth of brass for me right now. Now I used to fill that box in 8 to 10 weeks, but I was at the range almost every day. Now that's changed some, so, but that's about it. But I go through about 70 to 75 pounds of brass every 8 weeks or so. Yeah, so that's what I do, and that's what I shoot. So, and then I get that to the scrap yard, and I'll pick up like $4 a pound for that stuff. But meanwhile, I'm working on my sprinkler system. Oh, and I'm also working on that. That's going to be the rifle rack, but I'm not done. That's all primed and sealed. Now I'm just going to let it sit, and then what I'll end up doing is putting some carpet on it and some whatever, you know what I'm talking about, inside. you know, like a material, and put it together and put it in the closet, and I'm done. So the hardest part when you're doing this thing is waiting for the damn paint to dry, because it seems like it takes forever, especially when you're waiting for it. Yeah. So, alright, but anyway, meanwhile back at the ranch, I got a tree out back, and actually there's two of them out there. I'm going to see just how easy I can move them real quick. I'm going to bump into them with the tractor. I may not have to cut them down. I may be able to rip them right out. They're about 30 feet tall, but one of them's only like 6 inches. The other one's about 12 inches. So, but let me shut this off and go back there.